Deborah and I, we have lived in our neighborhood for actually the last month, 30 years we've lived in our home in the neighborhood that we're in. And for 30 years, as we went through our neighborhood, I would drive, and Deborah's usually not driving. And usually that's because I'm usually telling everybody how to drive if I'm in the passenger seat. You know, I remember my youngest daughter, when I was trying to train her how to drive, she used to think that I was just attacking her. And then one day her brother was driving and I was telling him how to drive, and she makes a comment because she's in the back seat. She says, "You know, this makes me feel a lot better. It's not just me." It's okay. Yes, I do it to Mom, and I did it to all the other kids too. That's something God hasn't healed me of yet, but all my kids are grown, so it really doesn't matter anymore, because I don't, I'm usually driving just by myself anyway. So we'd get into the neighborhood, and what would happen, Deborah?
Okay, so this is us in the neighborhood. Actually, he should be on this side.
Yeah, I'm usually on the...
We're driving.
It's an English car.
Yeah, and all of a sudden I'm going, "Stop it! Don't go on that side of the road." Because what would happen is he would go around like the curve. He's turning left, but he would cut it kind of short and go almost over on the other side. And then really close to that is another little turn. And so I'm like, "Stop it! I'm not going to get in this car with you. Stop it!" And I start, doing that. Getting really mad.
Yeah, she'd be angry at me. And for the most part, you guys, I don't think I ever got angry. I would just always answer the same way. Staying in peace. That's what I'm teaching you guys to do, right? I would stay in peace, and I would just say, "Honey, I'm a really good driver. I have been driving since I was 7 years old," because I have.
It's true.
And I haven't hit anybody. I'm not going to hit anybody. I can see nobody's coming. I got it all under control, and I went on and cut the next corner. And we did that for years. And she'd get mad at me every time. Every time. "Would you stop cutting the corners? I hate it when you cut the corners." And I tell you, as far as getting angry and upset doesn't change things. It didn't change anything. And then one day,
I said, "Sheneau, when you cut the corners, I feel scared."
And then she shut up.
Or I feel
afraid. That's what she actually said. She said, "I feel afraid."
Yeah.
And she shut up and she didn't say anything else. I thought about that for 3 days. I meditated on what she said. She said it really calm, really nice, and I thought about that. 3 days later, I sat down next to her. And I said, "Honey, remember what you said in the car the other day?" And she didn't even remember. She didn't realize what she said. I said, "You said when I cut the corners that you feel afraid." She says, "Oh, yeah." I said, "Well, honey, I've been thinking about that. I've been meditating on that. And I've been asking God, do I want my wife to feel afraid? No. So, honey, in talking to God, and because I love you, I'm not going to cut the corners anymore." God took care of it. I don't even do it when she's not in the car, because you see, when we have a bad habitual pattern in our lives, this is on a practical sense, how do you get rid of a bad habitual pattern? You replace it with a good habitual pattern. So basically, it's like driver's ed, man. I went to the right, real wrong ground corners. I mean, I ain't cut nothing. Now, does that mean I'm perfect and I never cut the corners again? No. Sometimes I fall into a bad habitual pattern, and I would cut the corner. But if she was in the car, she didn't say anything because, see, she believed and had faith and trusted that Holy Spirit could speak to me, that I could hear God for myself, and I did, because I'd cut the corner and I go, "Oh, shouldn't have done that one." In the next corner, I make my, nice, good
wide
turn. So what happens? What happens when and this is what we learned. Often when we're communicating, people do not know how to communicate correctly. Something bothers you, somebody does something, and this is generally what comes out. I feel like you just don't care. I feel like you don't love me. I feel like you're selfish. I feel like all you do is play softball. I feel like you just love your friends more than me. What is that? Every one of those is an accusation. Who is the accuser of the brethren? Satan. He stands before God day and night accusing us. And if you use the word like, you will generally turn whatever statement that you're saying into an accusation. What happens when you feel accused? You close up. You get angry. You get defensive. Now you got to prove why you're not what they just said you are. So what I'm saying is we've got to say things in such a way that doesn't come across as an accusation. Often what we're doing is we're telling someone else their motives. We're telling them why they did what they did. We're telling them what they're thinking in their head. And what we're doing is we're assuming because the enemy is speaking to us, not the Spirit of God. And when you do that, the enemy loves it when we assume, because hell comes in. Sometimes you may be right, by the way, but it's still not the right way to handle it. Deborah has a good way as far as that she's been kind of using. And what is the word you use?
Yeah, it's like to explain, if you want to explain something and you think that your spouse or friend or whoever is doing something, you could say, it seems that you're frustrated, and then you question, what you're picking up. Is that right? Or it seems, like, I would even put like in there, but he doesn't like that word. It seems like you're having a hard day. Is that true? Or it seems like you're angry or ticked off or whatever it is you're feeling, and it seems like you're mad at me, or it seems that you're mad at me. Is that right? Because you're checking, and you're not saying you're angry, you're this, you're that. So it's not an accusing thing. It's more, this is what I'm thinking. Is that right? Just always get that, is that right? Or is that what's going on? Or like if he's having a hard day, I go, seems like this is really hard for you, or you're stressed out. Is that right? Because sometimes it's like he's just in another world thinking about whatever it is. It has nothing to do with me or anything else. So.
Yeah. And we don't know what the other person's thinking. And so if you use that word seems, you're just checking in. I'll tell you one thing that people don't like, because in working with thousands of couples over the last 16 years, we have some couples that the one person is always accusing the other person of being angry or this or that. I mean, it's just always, well, you're just angry. Why are you so angry? And they're really not angry. They may be frustrated. They may be unsure as far as what to say at that point, and so they're not saying anything, but they're being accused of being angry all the time. And nobody likes to be accused. And so just be aware who you're listening to. And if you think something is going on, use the word what Deborah said. Just use, it seems like you're a little upset, or it seems like, and I know I'm using like, but you're saying it seems. I'm not saying you are. It seems. This is what I'm reading.
Yeah, I'm taking responsibility for what I'm thinking.
Okay, is it right? And if it's right, then admit it. If it's not, then say no. It's not what I'm thinking at all. Often what happens in relationships, especially between husbands and wives. Literally, see, I think how I think. Because of my history, because of what I grew up in, I see things in a certain way. I expect Deborah to see them in the same way because I think, well, this is just logical. This is just the way this is the way life is. This is the way you see things. And everybody doesn't.
Well, yeah, that's your world.
Right? Your perception is your reality. That's the way you perceive it. And so you have to understand that just because you see it and you can understand what through your eyes, through your thought processes, doesn't mean your spouse sees it. Now, there is another issue that happens within marriage. The other issue is guys and girls do not think and process the same. That is the truth. Guys are compartmentalized. We think, for me, it's one task at a time. Women, God made them in this way that it's just a supernatural, godlike thing to where they can do 5 or 8 or 10 things at the same time and not get them confused. That is a limitation that God put in guys. Guys can think of one thing at a time. Example, Deborah will give me something to do at the house. She'll ask me to clean something. And when I clean something, I clean it, man. I tell you what, man, that thing, I take it apart. I buff it, man. It is going to be clean when I'm done. And I'll be halfway through this, and she'll come by and she'll say, Sheneau, can you do this? She gives me something else to do. And all of a sudden, oh my gosh, I'm flustered. I'm frustrated. I said, wait a minute. How can I do this, and I'm not done with this, and you want me to do this? I can't do that. What am I supposed to do? You want me to do this, or you want me to do that? She says, no, Sheneau. After you finish doing that, then you go and do this. Oh, okay. I don't think that way, you see? But see, now when she clarifies it, then it makes it easier for me. Okay, I finished this box, and then I open this box. Okay, now I got it. But don't give me 2 things to do at the same time. It's just flustering, okay? It's like, moms with kids, you got 5 kids talking to you, and we had 6. You got all of them talking to you at the same time, and she hears them all, and she answers them all. And I'm just saying, would you all be quiet? Just one at a time. You first. What's your problem?
That's going to work.
It doesn't work. Anyway, I don't do that anymore. But I used to. All right? Does that make sense, you guys? Does that help? Now here, in doing what we're talking about, in being able to express, so basically here's how you express it in the correct way. You do what Deborah did in the car. Sheneau, when you cut the corners, I feel afraid. And then you just be quiet. Because anything that you say after that, you're turning yourself into Holy Spirit, and you're trying to make the thing to change on your own. In other words, you're trying to be God for your spouse. So what you do is when someone does something, all you do is tell them how you feel, but don't use the word like. So if they do something, they slam a door. You say, honey, when you slammed that door, I felt fearful. I felt frustrated. Or I felt angry. And then you just be quiet. And then I always get this question, but what if they don't change? If they don't change, you get 3 chances. If they don't change, man, you go for it. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just waking you up. Just seeing if you're awake after lunch. Did he really just say that?
strikes you out.
No, wait, but that's what I do. I'm following God. No, if you don't do it, then you just say the same thing again. You know, when you did that, I felt frustrated. When you did that, I felt sad. When you did that, I felt hurt. You just express it again. And then you have faith. You have faith that God is going to talk to your spouse about what happened. You believe that God's going to speak to them. And it doesn't mean that you can't confront them in love, and you can. But this is how you confront in love. And there's times that Deborah needed to talk to me, especially when I was more immature. You guys, I'm still immature. You realize that. I'm just more mature than I was, and I'm less immature than I was. Right? But I'm still immature. I'm still growing up. My goal is to grow up before I die. Right? I want to be Christ-like before I die. I want to be more mature before I die. Okay? Now, I want to wait a long time for that. So, but anyway, as you go through this, you got to just believe that God is going to speak to them. Just have faith. And here's what I want you to do is I want you, and I've taught people to do this. I want you to speak from your heart. 85% of our communication is nonverbal. What happens if Deborah's talking to me and I do this? What did I just say? Here we go again. I'm frustrated. Heck, I don't want to talk about this. You are all wet. Right? 85% of our communication is nonverbal. Stay in peace. Also, the tone behind it. Deborah said, Sheneau, and she said it like she said it. Sheneau, when you cut the corners, I feel afraid. She didn't say, Sheneau, when you cut the corners, I feel afraid. Now, she said this, that's the same thing, isn't it? But is it the same thing? No. What I'm saying is, come from the heart that God gave you. Come from that place of a broken heart. If you're sad, let your spouse see the sadness. Let him see the hurt. Because really what the bottom line is that all this communication, if you don't do it properly, what happens is you are losing your oneness between the two of you. There's a wall that is being built up. Does that make sense? And we don't want the wall to build up. And so we have to practice this. Do we do this always right? No. There's times we fall back. But just because your spouse says it wrong and it turns into an accusation, does that mean you get defensive and now you can get angry? No. You're going to be Christ-like, which means you can just say, honey, the way you just said that to me, I feel accused. And then be quiet. Does that make sense? Okay? This takes practice. It really does take practice. But through all of it, you're choosing not to get mad. I choose to listen. I choose not to shut down. I choose not to get defensive. I choose not to get offended. I choose not to blame you. I choose not to blame others. I choose not to make excuses. Hey, I got them down pretty good, don't I? Right? I choose not to shut you down. Don't go there. Because all of that will destroy your oneness. But most of the time, us guys take a little longer to kind of think about stuff. All right? And so we don't process things as fast. And that's okay. Sometimes that's reversed. But just realize that. And again, go back to what Diana said last night about Keith, is even when things don't come out right, is you look at the heart. Listen, bottom line is, you're married because you love each other. You got a heart for the other person. You love each other. Most of the time, people will not do things to purposely hurt the other person. Sometimes, yes, they do. But that's when they're angry, when they're upset, when they're listening to the wrong kingdom. All right? Yes. Come on up, Keith.
No, I think that sometimes dealing with slowness or looking at it, it's like getting into a parking space and not thinking how you're going to get out of the parking space. And so sometimes you say, hey, get the parking space. I'm thinking, but how am I going to get out of that parking space once I get in it? And so sometimes my slowness is slower, but it's looking at the next step, because there are many times where people get in parking spaces and all of a sudden they're weaseled in there. I mean, there's no way someone's going to let them out, or they can't navigate. So that's not a defense, but a kind of an explanation. Sometimes decisions, both male and female, may take the next dynamic. So that's why the process may take longer. Sometimes it's just slow. Yeah, I'm not going to justify that. Like you just saw that buffering of the video. It's working, but nothing's coming out yet. So you just got to have to be patient. But it's usually worth it. Okay.
That's good. Thank you, Keith. And that again, sometimes I look at people when I'm working with them. Sometimes I'm looking at them, or sometimes even with Deborah, I'll just say, I want to know what you're thinking. Just tell me what you're thinking. And don't process it. I want to know what's going on in your head. Because if I know what's going on in their head, then, I know what direction to go. If Deborah can tell me what she's thinking, then I know as far as, I know if the enemy's involved here, or if other processes are going on, or what I need to do. Maybe I just need to give her time. Maybe I just need to speak some truth. Maybe, as a guy, this is really difficult. Okay, guys, here. This is a nugget right here. Guys, when your wife starts to tell you a problem, you don't have to fix it. That's it. Right there. You don't have to fix it. Most of the time, you don't have to fix it. Now I'm going to tell you how to clarify this so that it'll save you a lot of trouble. When they say something or they start to speak to you, your wife, you can say, wait a minute. As you start to share, just let me know one thing. Is this something I have to fix, or is this something where I just need to listen? And they'll say, well, I just need you to listen. Hey, go for it. I'll sit here a half hour. I'm just listening, man. Go for it. I'm easygoing. I know I don't have to fix it. I know, it's not something I got to change. Whatever, I'm just going to listen. Okay? Now, there are times that Deborah needed to tell me, Sheneau, I need to talk to you, and it is about you, and it is something that I need you to talk to God about. I need you to talk to Holy Spirit. I need some action on this. Okay. All right. Go ahead. And I'm going to listen, and I'm going to choose not to do all these things behind me here. Okay? I'm just going to listen. And then I'm going to hear for God. I'm going to talk to God, and I'm going to find out what it is that I need to do or what I'm responsible for. All I'm saying is you're going to have to practice doing this. What I want you to do is I want you to be there. In other words, often Deborah will be talking to me, and I am not there. Where am I? I'm on this problem or this issue or this thing, and it's going on in my head, and I cannot get there. And so sometimes she has to wait till I can maybe solve some of this stuff over here. So timing is important. So sometimes for me to be able to really hear her, I've got this issue that I've got to get taken care of. You've got to listen and you've got to hear. You've got to understand where the other person's coming from. You want to become one? Do the two shall become one? You have to know what's going on in your spouse's head, or in your kid's head, or anybody else that you're with. And you have to be willing to listen, and you have to ask questions, and you have to clarify. Because sometimes people say things and they don't say things in a right way. They say it incorrectly. I've had couples where they're talking and the Spirit of God is just involved and we're doing really great, and then all of a sudden, all hell breaks loose. I'm thinking, what just happened? And it's in all us is, what you say? Why'd you get so angry? It's because they said this, this, and this. I said, that's not what they said. That's what they said. I heard it. I said, no, you missed one word. There was one word that was in there that they said, this is what they said. That one word changed the whole meaning. You guys, you have an enemy that wants to steal, kill, and destroy. He can scramble the words. You can miss a word. It'll change the meaning. And all of a sudden, you're off to the races, and all hell's breaking loose. So when all that stuff starts to come, that's where I'm saying peace is your greatest weapon. Stay in peace. Stay in peace. And then ask questions. This is what I just heard. Is that what you meant to say? No, that's not what I said. This is what I said. Oh, okay. What can you clarify? What does that mean? What you just said, what does that mean? I'm not sure what that means. Clarify so you can make sure that you really truly understand what they're saying. Sometimes I've tried to answer my kids' questions, but I didn't understand the question. I didn't answer their question. I answered the question I thought that they were asking, but it wasn't what they were asking. So make sure you know what the question is.